As a guitarist, you're probably aware of the fear that a high E string will snap in your eye when you're tuning it up. We all know that feeling, right? You've just put some fresh strings on your guitar. And you're tuning up the strings, and when it comes to the high E string, you get a little bit more nervous. Your face starts to sweat a little bit as you turn up that high E string. First, the string is very loose, there's no danger yet. But the more you tighten that string, the more dangerous it becomes. You start tightening the string and the pitch goes up. The pitch goes up. And you're reaching that point of the final pitch. And as you're approaching that point, the fear gets worse of that string just snapping right in your eye. And you'll never be able to see again with that eye because of the damage that string has caused. Your eye is going to bleed and you're going to suffer for the rest of your life when that high E string snaps in your eye. You're still tuning up the guitar. You're almost at pitch. This is the critical moment. And then, to your relief, once you've reached the final pitch of that high E, you know that you're safe. So in this video, I want to talk about guitarists' worst fears. I'm going to share some stories of things that have happened to me as a guitarist, some things that were quite scary. And I'm also going to read some of your comments because I asked you guys as well what your worst fears are as a guitarist. Now quickly, if you want to support this channel, please drop a comment. Let me know your worst fears as a guitarist. Hit the like and subscribe button. And if you want to support this channel directly, please take a look at my affiliate links for Thomann and Sweetwater, or get something in my web store like a Quad Cortex capture pack or an IR pack. All right, with that said, let's get started. So I came up with this idea recently when I was tuning up a guitar. And when it came to that high E string, I realized how stupidly afraid I am of that string snapping in my eye. Seriously, when I tune up those strings, I'm really like looking away, closing my eye until it reaches the pitch. It's really ridiculous, but that's just a really common guitarist fear, I think. And it always makes me laugh when I do it, even though I am genuinely like a little bit scared of that string snapping. So that's kind of funny. But I'll share some stories with you that have scared me a little bit. So this first story is a long while ago when I was playing in my old band. We were going to do a theater tour with acoustic guitars, and I had a Variax, a Line 6 acoustic Variax, a 700 or something, I believe. But I needed a backup. So the guy from Line 6, who worked for Line 6 at the time in my country, he was like, yeah, you can borrow mine. So I went to another city with the train, and I got the guitar. We had a drink or something, and I went back home. I put the guitar in a rack in the train because there were these little coaches, I guess, or coupes or whatever they're called. And you had these racks, and I put my guitar up there because it was a little bit busy in the train. And then all of a sudden we reached a station that I was not expecting to reach. So I took the wrong train. So I walked out of the train to find out what was happening and which train I actually took. And the train took off. And then I realized that I'd left the guitar in the train with all those people. Oh my God. I was so stressed out. I had just borrowed that guitar from the Line 6 guy. He doesn't know this story, by the way. So I ran downstairs to the desk of the people from the trains, and I was like, I left my guitar in the train. Please help. Please help. I was really like paranoid and stuff. And they were like, okay, we're going to call the guy on the train, and he's going to look for your guitar. Luckily, they did find the guitar, and I had to go all across the country to the destination of the train to pick up the guitar. But I was so relieved when I got that guitar back. Oh my gosh. And that guy got it back in the end after the tour. So it ended well, but that was just a super stressful moment. Don't leave your guitar in the train, people. Come on. I also have another one. This one is probably also familiar to you if you've done gigs and stuff. With my old band, we were playing a huge festival with thousands of people in front of me. And I picked up another guitar for another song, and that song opened with me just playing the intro riff. And one of my favorite bands from our country was also, backstage, maybe watching the gig. So I felt some pressure there, right? And I started to play, and immediately I noticed that the guitar was out of tune. So embarrassing. It was just me. So I just stopped, tuned the guitar, and went again. That was super embarrassing. And that's something that you probably can relate to as well if you've done gigs and stuff. Just having the guitar tuned, you know, badly or something like that, and then having to start a song, that sucks. Another fear of me that I've had throughout the years is my partner realizing how much I've spent on something. You know, some boxes would arrive and she would be like, "What did you order now, John?" I was like, "Oh, nothing. It's just, you know, a couple little affordable amplifiers," stuff like that. Now, since I'm doing this for a living now, I've got an excuse, right? It's for work. But back in the day, before I made any money with this, it was just always a little bit nerve-wracking when the UPS guy came to deliver a bunch of gear and stuff. "Did you order another guitar, John? Did you order another amplifier? Are you crazy?" Whew, that caused me some stress for sure. Can you relate? Another funny one, I've made a full video on this actually, was when I was in Brazil with my old band. I'll keep the story short, but watch that video if you're interested in the full story. It's really crazy. I think the title is something like "I Could Have Died," because it was really crazy. We were playing in the favelas in Rio de Janeiro, and we were communicating. We were basically there to talk to the mob, the local mob, right? The mafia. Oh my God. There were like kids there with machine guns and stuff. It was absolutely crazy. So I could have died. So that was pretty scary. And then that night we did a show in the favela as well. And there were like cars on either side of the stage with the windows rolled open a little bit and guns pointing out of the cars. I guess they were protecting the stage, but imagine getting shot on stage. Man, that is a scary thought. Another funny one, and I haven't told this on the channel before, even though it's quite a funny story. And I won't mention the brand, but maybe you'll be able to guess. But some years ago, I was invited to the headquarters of a guitar brand. They have a headquarters in the Netherlands to buy a guitar. I got one for a small discount or something. And he had reserved, the guy was very nice, but the guy from that brand had 2 guitars reserved for me with the finish that I wanted, right? So I went there. And he had the 2 guitars on a little stage, and I could pick the one that I wanted. So I picked up one and I played it a little bit. Ah, this is a cool one. I like how resonant it is. It looks beautiful. And then I looked over and the headstock was cracked. There was a huge like gash at the back of the headstock. I was like, "You know what? I don't think I'm going to take this one. Here you go." And he was like, and he put the guitar away in the case. That was hilarious. So needless to say, I went with the other one. But imagine that. Buying a new guitar with a cracked headstock, or selling a guitar to somebody with a cracked headstock. That made me chuckle a little bit inside. But it was quite awkward as well, I must say. Another couple potential fears that I came up with is, for example, having a guitar fall out of your gig bag as you're running across the street or something like that. Oh my God, the damage that would cause to your guitar. That is a scary thing. I think that happened to me once, but with a guitar case where it just flipped open and the guitar fell on the ground. That's not good, people. Or getting an electric shock. I remember with my old band, we had this sort of rehearsal ISO room. It was quite a big ISO room inside of a bigger room. And for some reason, there was something wrong with the electricity. So if you were holding a guitar and touching the ceiling, you would get like electric shocks. So that was very unpleasant. So the idea of getting electrocuted while playing guitar is also something that scared me a little bit at that time. And a very realistic fear for a lot of people nowadays. A lot of people, including me, we order guitars online, right? It's just, you know, you ordered that guitar, you place the order, you spent that money, and then the guitar arrives with flaws. That's a very realistic fear that we've probably all had happen to us, people who've ordered a bunch of guitars. And that sucks, man. You've just been waiting for that guitar, you're really getting excited about it, and then you get it, take it out of the box, and after a few minutes you realize, damn, this is not the one, or damn, it has some issues that I have to fix. That is annoying. Anyway, so those are some fears, you know, that I could come up with, also some based on my own experience. But again, I asked you guys as well. So I'm gonna read some of your comments. I'm gonna start with the comments under my post on my channel, and we're gonna have some fun here, okay? My biggest fear is saying, time to write some songs, and 3 hours later I have only one riff and it's going nowhere. Oh, we've all been there. But that's okay, as long as you've enjoyed playing the guitar for that time, you know, you'll live. This one is weird, but I'm going to read it anyway. I saw a short recently of Devin Townsend playing a riff while Rick Beato, John Petrucci, and Tosin Abasi just watched him. I think that's my new fear. I don't get it. Forgetting the guitar at the airport, or the fear that the next singer will sing even worse than the last one. Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. That's some serious fears right there. Well, especially the one forgetting your guitar at the airport. Imagine that, flying all the way across the world and then landing in Australia or something. And then, oh my God, I left my guitar in Austria or something like that. The guitar strap detaching and my precious guitar falling and breaking its neck. Oh my gosh. I've grabbed it mid-fall a few times, then decided to finally buy a locking strap. Yeah, I think we've all had that happen at one point. Like, you know, the strap failing and the guitar dropping to the floor, seriously. But at a certain point you learn what you can do about that, and you can prevent that for sure. And Hoagie says, that's hilarious about me winding the high E string. That has been my biggest fear for 35 years. I always turn my head to the left when I'm turning the high E. Too funny someone else feels the fear. Dude, we feel the same fear for sure. And this other guy, oh yes, I've often imagined that to a string in the eye, a real nightmare. And Joe says, I literally think that every time I tune up or restring. I've had the same strings on a Jazzmaster since 2017. I like old strings, so you're not changing the strings because you're afraid that it will snap in your eye. That's a new extreme for sure. Andrew says, same exact fear as yours. I've been having that same thought in my head every time I change strings or tune up for over 20 years. That's hilarious. Yeah. I'm not alone. That's good to know. Frankie says, my parents hearing the music my band makes. Well, being a little bit rebellious with your music isn't a bad thing, right? Sam says, my pedal board going down during a gig. It only happened once where I got no sound mid-song. The band kept playing while I struggled to figure out the issue for 3 minutes on my hands and knees with the crowd watching. Most embarrassing and stressful thing I've ever dealt with in a long while. Yeah, that sucks. That sucks for sure. And Frankie says, forgetting to replace a battery in my guitar right before a gig. Oh man. Of course. I'm not sure I could possibly top that broken string takes out an eye nightmare. Jeesh! However, once upon a time I was playing an outdoor festival and I was on a drum riser that was very shallow. One of the legs of my stool walked off the back edge of the riser and I went sprawling off the back of the riser. Scary, painful, and embarrassing. Caught myself by one hand and managed to nearly dislocate my shoulder. My gosh, it's so dangerous playing on a stage these days. My God. My fear is when I use a Floyd Rose and then hear the neck make a cracking sound. Happened on an old guitar I played at a friend's house. Ooh, okay. So the neck cracked when you were using the Floyd Rose? That must have been a weak neck. And then A to Z Studio says, I've had an E string break in my eye and it wasn't as bad as you'd think. So it's a realistic fear after all. Oh my gosh, the fear is justified, guys. Just wear some goggles and stuff. Leaky bucket handle. Having kids pinch a hole through the amp grill, dog chewing up neck of a guitar, etc. Oh my gosh. Eye open sound. Neck through body construction. If it will be broken, it will be very complicated to repair that. Yeah. Oh, that's not a good repair or a fun repair to have to do, I guess. So this person, my jam room in the studio is in the basement. I've had a couple scares during heavy rainstorms where my pump got a little iffy. It would become a situation where it's, what do I try to save first? 25 amp heads, 3 4x12 cabs, over 100 pedals, a modeler, and multiple other pieces of gear. My guitars are hanging on the wall, so they'll be fine. I've actually had dreams, nightmares about this happening. Oh man, I hope that doesn't happen for you. Fumbling the opening riff to a song when playing live. There you go. It's happened to me. My guitar getting dropped and cracking the neck. Yep, that does happen from time to time, especially with those guitars. That my guitar will get pushed off my stand and suffer high damage. Oof. My Les Paul headstock breaking off and hitting me in the face. Oh my gosh. Stop scaring me. My biggest fear is that some of my large e-bike batteries will explode during charging, and then there's nothing I could do to put the fire out, which will then destroy all my gear. Basically the fear of a fire that could break out somehow, maybe above or below my apartment where I have no control. I never feared to get hit with a high E string though. It snapped 2 or 3 times, I think, and it never made any damage. Whew, you got lucky. I guess an injury or illness that leads to a motor or sensory deficit, red wiring me unable to either play or listen to guitar. Yeah, that's scary. Or a nightmare I had once. I go on stage, start playing and the headstock just breaks off. Crazy stuff. Damn. Closing the circuit in an ungrounded venue. There was a guitarist in my country from a metal band who got electrocuted when his lips touched the microphone and died? Dude, that's dark. That's dark. It's pretty scary. And then Dead Whip says to lose my hand. Any of them. Yeah, that's scary too. All right, let's go to some Facebook comments. This is on my personal profile. Let my telly blop on the floor at the end of a show, as I've done multiple times, and find it beheaded. Ask me how that fear came to be. How did that fear come to be? This is a pretty serious one, but I'll read it for you. This is from Kafir. Ballistic missile attack while recording with headphones and not hearing the siren. He actually lives in a sort of war zone, so that's a serious one. Stay safe, buddy. Jorma says, honestly, having to take an emergency poop in the middle of a big gig. Imagine that, like having diarrhea while you're on stage or something. Oh my God, that's so scary. David says, when I'm playing bass at my desk, I'm always afraid of going to whack and damage one of my displays because I'm not used to how long the neck is. Oh my God. Definitely breaking a string during a gig, says Charlie. Having equipment failure and not having spare gear. RJ says, opening an empty case. That hurt. Oh my gosh. Was it stolen? I'm so sorry. And Jamie slays. Turning up to a gig to play Metallica on stage and forgetting how to play every song. I've had that dream multiple times. Exactly that dream. I'm not kidding. Peter says, cutting in your fingers of the left hand 2 days before a big gig. No cooking for me, the big week before a gig. Oh my gosh. Sorry about that. John says, truss rod snapping, or the threads on it stripping. Oh my gosh. Yeah, that sucks. That sucks. That would be a very hard repair. Are Lemus not progressively getting better in the big picture, skill-wise? Dude, I haven't been getting better in 10 years. It's not that bad. Dan says, apparently my fear is playing in front of people. Alone, I rival Steve Vai. Turn on the camera or put me in front of someone, and I seem to forget everything I've ever known. It's kind of like the red light syndrome, right? We know that feeling. Evan says, ready to really nail the opening song of a set, and then after 10 seconds you realize your guitar tech handed you your guitar in C sharp instead of B. That was quite humbling. You know what? I even saw that happen to Metallica one time in 2006 in Arnhem. It was the intro for the new song. And I think the bass guitar was tuned to the wrong tuning, so that was kind of funny. They had to start over and stuff. You can probably see that on YouTube. Not a fear, actually happened, says Joseph. Took the stage, hit an A chord, threw my arms up, psyched, and my guitar came off my strap and crashed right to the floor. Oh my God. Did the guitar survive? Oh my gosh, tell me about it. Tell me what happened to that guitar. Will says, hand injuries. I did yard work for many years with heavy gloves on. Cut the pointer finger on your primary fretting hand and you're out for 2 weeks. 2 weeks is an eternity when you have this. And then, of course, you can see he has a bunch of beautiful amplifiers. That is an awesome rack, by the way, dude. And Remco says, getting a string underneath my fingernail during a slide. Ew, that's awkward. All right, and then some posts on the SDS Guitar Gear forum, which is my own Facebook group. Ryan says, forgetting my guitar at home has happened on more than one occasion. Oh my gosh. He also says, or having to talk to the bar regular wherever we are playing. Okay. Gustavo says, I have a few, the string in the eye too. Going to a gig with digital equipment and that it doesn't work or have a glitch. Getting to a gig and forgetting how to play the whole set list. Dude. And Andreas says, an empty battery in a guitar with passive pickups. Yep, that would suck. And then finally, I have some posts in the rock and metal amps, pedals, and gear Facebook group. Join that group, by the way. It's growing, and it's a really great place to hang out and talk gear. Adrian says, gear theft. I had a Yamaha SG-1000 stolen a long time ago. It still sticks in my craw. Dude, I'm so sorry. Gear theft is the worst. There's nothing funny about that. That sucks so bad. Brandon says, putting on the guitar strap and falls off. Yeah, that sucks. Akos falling on stage face forward after being hit in the head by the bass guitar's headstock. Oh my God, I hope that didn't happen to you. Did that happen to you? Oh my gosh. Tim shitting my pants on stage. Yeah, that would suck. I think that happened to Bloodhound Gang, didn't it? I think I saw some video of that on a big festival too. Drew says, bro, I have the same fear of the string snapping. I have to look away as I'm turning up high strings for the first time. I totally know. And Matt says, an old friend used to wear safety glasses when changing his strings for this very reason. What a smart guy. Jake says, power stancing and tweaking something so you fall down and can't get back up. It's never happened to me though, I swear. Yeah, right. Till says, are bassist farting? Dude. Revelin says, low B string, 64 gauge, snapping into my eye. That's worse? Oh my God. Brian says, changed guitars on stage between songs and forgot to take the amp off of standby. I just ran over and flipped it off while my bandmates kept playing. Total dip beep, lol. Nick says, my picking hand locking up on stage, which happened to me a couple of times. My diabetes has come under much better control, so that helped, plus hydrating well before a show, as I'm tall and those stage lights make me sweat hard. Dude, take care, man. Nathan says, amp issues in mid-recording or show, etc. and making to do with a non-preference substitute, like a little PV practice amp instead of a dual rectifier, right? Chuck says, getting old and dealing with arthritis and someday not being able to play. All I'll say to that is carpe diem. Carpe diem. Enjoy every day. Enjoy every chord. Okay? And the final one, forgetting the next riff during a live performance. I've been through it so many times on songs I've played 100 times. To get to the riff before and then suddenly wonder what comes next. Realize I don't know and then spend the next few seconds in a blind panic. Luckily, muscle memory has saved me so many times, but the fear is real. Yeah, I think we've all had that happen where you're just playing a song on stage and you're like, oh no, what was the part that comes next? Is this the second verse or the first verse? Is it the bridge that's coming now or the chorus? I can relate. All right, guys, that was this video on guitarists' worst fears. I hope you enjoyed it. Again, let me know your worst fears in the comments down below because I'd love to know. Also, please hit the like and subscribe buttons as that really helps the channel out. I'd really appreciate it. Of course, you can follow me on Facebook and Instagram. Check out my affiliate links for Tolman and Sweetwater. And check out my web store for capture packs and all that good stuff. Thank you so much, and I hope to see you soon. Cheers.